And I'm gonna quickly inhale a taco and then we'll actually get started. When I said I was going to quickly inhale a taco, I meant I just shoved an entire taco in my mouth. I'm trying a lot of things new tonight, so like every night, whenever I stream, it's all experimental. Everything on this side of the wall is experimental. I should probably like position my stuff so I can actually see chat. Because unfortunately, all of these cameras... Are my cameras working? One of them, two of them are. Why is my big one not? The hell? There it goes. I had to deactivate it and reactivate it. Hey, Aries is here. Some people from Purple Donut are here. Yay! Oh, it does work, but it's incredibly tiny. Okay, so let me introduce you to my living room. You know what I actually want to do? I'm gonna go get something out of my garage real quick. I want to try something. Oh God, I'm going into my garage. Why I say, oh God, I'm going into my garage? Because it's like 500 degrees in my garage. So, oh, this is something I actually wanted to see how it was going to look. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Whew. So Tim was, Tape Tech Tim, who's in chat, might be in chat, he might be lurking, which is fine. You can lurk, I don't care. He was here a couple weeks ago when I was working on my model railroad, and I was working on it in my garage. And now, as you can see, I'm trying to find the app I'm looking for. There it is. I'm trying to find my chat app on my phone so I can see my chat. I moved into my living room, and the reason for that is it was incredibly hot in my garage. We're talking over 100 degrees, even at like 11:30 at night in my garage. The only time this week that it has been nice and pleasant to be in my garage is like 7 a.m. And even then, it's only like for a few hours. As soon as the sun starts hitting that garage door, boom, it gets hot. And I'm just coming over here because I want to double check and make sure that my audio isn't peaking too hard. Hopefully the audio quality's okay. I'm using my wireless headset, which normally I don't use for streaming. I normally use my good microphone, but the good microphone doesn't come all the way over here to where my layout is. In fact, I had to order very long USB extension cords to be able to get that camera and that camera and that camera all working. So I've moved my model railroad from my garage, where I've been working on it, to my living room. And I did that because, again, as I was saying, it was very hot in my Oh! Aries with the 100 bits. Tape Tech Tim sounds good to me. Good. I know, like, from recording and, like, listening to both the Razer microphone that is plugged into my computer and this Corsair headset, there definitely is a audio quality difference. But again, like, all of my streaming software is 20 feet over in that corner, and these cameras are all on 15-foot, USB extension cables. What's funny is that camera right there, that little one right there, that's like a 20-year-old Xbox 360 camera. That camera's old enough to drink. Actually, it's not. I got that in what, like 2007. So yeah, it's getting up there. Whereas that camera over there is actually, I don't like that camera. I don't like it at all. I really like this camera. But yeah, so I moved the layout into the as I was saying, I moved the layout into the living room, and one of my concerns when I was moving it out here is this is also my VR play space. As Aries knows, I play a lot of VR chat with them and our whole Purple Donut VR chat group, and I was really worried that it was just going to eat up all of my play space, and I realized it doesn't. I don't know how well it shows, but I have a table right here. In fact, I can actually just pan the camera over and look at it. I want to undo this knob. And go, I've got this work table here actually sticks out further than the layout does, so we're golden there. I'm looking over at my computer while adjusting the cameras because these are just cheap webcams, so I don't have a viewfinder on them or anything. So the project that I want to work on today is I want to finish this corner section. I kind of want to mull it over a little bit, and let's talk about the model railroad and the track plan and everything. Aries. So I'm doing this in HO scale, which if you're not familiar with your model train scales, HO scale is 1/87th scale. These are roughly the size of Hot Wheels cars. Something you might also notice, if this camera will focus, it's not going to focus, is it? Focus, you fuck. I might have to turn off manual. I have to go over here and do manual focus on this thing. This one thing I don't like about this camera is it like autofocus on it never worked correctly. It never works correctly. It might just be dirty. Oh, that's even worse. Oh, it's better now. It's better now. So these are roughly the size of Hot Wheels cars. I don't have a Hot Wheels car around here. Hot Wheels cars are a little bit bigger. I think Hot Wheels cars are scaled at like 164, and these are 184. Technically 184.3, but we don't worry about that decimal point unless you're really, really stickler. And if you're looking in the background, yes, I have a projector on the wall, and yes, I have my own live stream up just so that way I can see what the stream is. There's a massive delay, but also so I can kind of see chat in one corner. So let's start over here at this end of the layout. So right here is going to be my main yard. I'm going to have a little roundhouse right here, has some tracks here for doing some switching and sorting trains, and then we're going to go along over that way, along that wall, until we get to that corner. And I'm actually going to walk over here and talk a little bit about this corner of this layout. So here is going to be kind of a sort of downtown area, and I have a couple little short track industries here. I still haven't quite finalized what exactly they're going to look like, but imagine the track kind of like this. And then where this bottle of glue is, which I technically put this bottle upside down. You normally store your tacky glue like this, but when they get about half full, I like to keep them upside down so all the glue stays here, and it's been sitting for too long right side up. So I'm going to go stick it over here. One of my projects for this weekend is I'm going to reorganize my entire other half of my living room. Like, I had to tear apart this whole wall, like all my stuff over here, and rearrange everything to get this to fit. And I haven't put any of it back yet. So, like, I've just got a pile of junk in that corner of my room right now. So, when we come to this corner, here's where the part that I'm still trying to work on and figure out and decide what I want to do is. We round this corner. Now, if I leave the bench work, which says wood part here, as is, if I leave it like this track is going to be one big long curve and end right here. This is what's called a point-to-point railroad, so you're not going to be going, in continuous loops around the track. You're not going to be going in a circle like you'd see, under a Christmas tree or at a big display. But more, it's a dead-end railroad. Both ends are dead ends. Now, this railroad is based on a real-world location, and so the tracks going north, which is the yard, actually would continue on, but in the real-world location, the tracks actually do dead end here at this part here. One of the things I've been kind of kicking around is, what do I want to do with this part? This part right here, this whole section, right? My first thought, let's just adjust the camera a little. My first thought is I could take this part here and put it here and extend the layout out to about here. Now, the advantage of that is my trains come out of the yard and they come around this corner, one 90-degree bend, and then go straight line to the end of the railroad. Disadvantage, it does completely block my sliding glass door. So I gotta weigh the pros and cons. Do I block my sliding glass door? How often am I going out on my patio? I've gone out on my patio 3 times since I moved into my apartment. And 2 of those 3 times it was because I was going out there and getting an Amazon package. And really, I don't have to go all the way up and completely block the door. I could go halfway and leave enough room that I could still squeeze in and out of there. Yes, on my patio, I do have a closet out there that I do store some stuff. But I think the only thing I have in there is, like, some of my camping gear that doesn't need to be inside. Like, I've got some firewood from my last camping trip. I've got parts of my tent that are made out of wood that don't need to be inside. My other thought is I could leave this like this and still extend the layout out at least a foot. You know, a foot, maybe 2 feet. I think, where's my tape measure? I think I actually measured it out as exactly 24 inches. No, I measured it out at 18 inches. I could do an 18-inch extension, so it would come out to about here. I would still be able to get through my sliding glass door if I needed to go out there. Leave this here, like this, as part of the layout. But then, and what this would be is there's an industry down at this end of the railroad that I want to model. That would be where that industry would be. And that's kind of what I'm been mulling over is, you know, do I move this whole section? Do I make an extension? Or do I leave it as is? And part of me wants to just wait on this area and be like, all right, let's figure that out later. Let's work on something else on the layout. But I really don't have anything else to work on the layout right now. Because what I need to do, the other stuff I need to do, let me pan the camera over here, is I need to finish the track work over here in the train yard. Unfortunately, this type of track right here, these switches, I need another one of these. I need more of these. But this is a left-handed switch. I need a right-handed switch, and I don't have any more right-handed switches. In fact, the hobby shop, when I went and bought all of these, only had, I think, 1 right-handed switch. Yeah, they only had 1 right-handed switch. Double check this. Left. Yeah, they only had 1 right-handed switch. So, what am I supposed to do? There's still some other stuff that I need to do, like some woodworking over in this far corner of the layout. Let me just pan the camera around over here a little bit. Like, this layout's actually 3 separate sections. So from right here where this gap in the foam is 1 piece. Then from this gap of the foam to just past the soldering iron is another piece. And then this whole part here is its own separate piece as well. To link all of the pieces together, I use this nut and bolt washer combo through holes drilled in the benchwork. I haven't drilled the holes in that corner yet. So the only thing holding that corner together right now are a couple of C-clamps. And so It's a matter of you gotta drill those holes and put those C-clamps in. Or not put those bolts in. But I don't actually know where my drill bit that fits these went. So I haven't drilled the holes yet. I'm probably just gonna have to go and buy a new drill bit. A bunch of drill bits. I know I had ones. I drilled the holes a couple weeks ago. But I don't know where that bit went after that. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I did like I said, I put a lot of thought and consideration into moving the layout out here. And one of the things I had to do, and this is actually what I was working on last night, which I'm glad on one hand, I'm glad I worked on it last night. On the other hand, I kind of wish I had saved it for tonight. But I actually made new legs for the layout and made the layout much taller. So that way I can clear this work table. I'm sitting there saying, where's my drill bit? And I realized, I think I put my drill bit on this table, on this cart, didn't I? No. Just all my screws. Not my drill bit. What's this? It's a 5/8. It's a 5/8 deep well. 16 millimeter. Oh, because it's a spark plug. I'm like, what size socket is this? And why has it got a rubber thing in there? Oh, it's a spark plug socket. Duh. Yeah, I don't have the drill bit here. It might be in this box. It might be somewhere. But yeah, I was weighing the pros and cons of moving the layout out here into the living room, and the pros of leaving it in the garage were it's already there, and I have plenty of room to do a nice straight line, which was something that was bothering me because the train tracks shouldn't be a straight line. There should be some deviation and some wiggle. So this at least gives me a corner to go around. So my trains aren't just constantly going in a little zigzag as they go through the yards. Which curves give you a little bit of a break in scenery. And this also does allow for a little bit of a visual break. So you're working the yard, and then you go around the corner, and you're in a different part of the layout, in a different area working. Sorry, I'm about to burp constantly, and it's slightly unpleasant. And then, what else? Oh, the advantages of moving it into my living room. I have good lighting in my living room. In fact, I can actually turn this lighting up a little brighter, but I think it's as bright as it'll go. I have good lighting in my living room. I have air conditioning. My garage isn't air conditioned at all. I have power outlets. My garage only had one power outlet, and I had to run a really long extension cord from that power outlet to where the layout was going to be, because that power outlet was in the ceiling. And what else? Yeah, well, air conditioning, better lighting, better access to outlets. And it actually, in the long run, helps me consolidate everything, because I have one set of tools that I was using to work on the layout and then work on my robots. And it's like, well, like, my iFixit toolkit, which is like my go-to, I'm going to a robot event, this toolkit is with me. I take this toolkit with me to the face-off fights with Jackpot both times, and never touched it. There's not a single tool in here that Jackpot uses, or that will work on any screws on Jackpot. But I still had it with me, just in case. In fact, all my beetle weights, my beetle, my ant, and my plant, and my fairy weight all use tools that these use. But it's like, I need these also from the layout. Well, now they're in the garage. Now I need to go out to my garage and get them and bring them out here. And it's like, I got tools in the garage, tools in my living room. If I bring the layout in here, I can consolidate all my tools in one spot. And like, my work table here is on wheels. So if I want to work on my robots, I just roll the table out from under the layout. I specifically made sure these legs were far enough apart that I could roll the layout, or roll this out underneath the layout. Right, I think the last thing I really need to do is I need to put some stringers across these. I want to see if I can do that, because that one leg was kind of weird. I want to put some stringers across just to like make the layout less wobbly. I think this actually will fit. That'd be a weird angle if I did that like that. I mean, it would work. And then I would put another one right here like so. Yeah, that's something to do later, because any cutting I'm going to do, I'm going to have to do out in my garage. I don't want to... I want to keep my cutting with my table saw. Because if you don't bring the iFixit kit to an event, then for sure you need it, even for Jackpot. I think about it. I think our Vesks on Jackpot have some screws that the iFixit kit has sockets that will fit. But also, it's a lucky charm. Like, if I have this, we usually do pretty good. I'm not going to talk about our last face-off weekend, but typically if I have it, we do pretty good. Some stuff I want to also do before we get too deep is, like, this shelf right here, this bookshelf. I'm going to reorganize this bookshelf. I have all my RC car stuff on here. I'm going to move the RC car stuff to a bookshelf over there. And then I'm going to put all my model train stuff, like, on this shelf. You can already see I've got one locomotive here. This is actually my 2-rail O-scale locomotive sitting right here. Let's see. So, back to this corner that I'm just kind of mulling over, like... I mean, the other thing I could do... I think I got this stuff. I could start doing some wiring. Like, the very basic bit of wiring that I have. I actually do have some wiring done on the layout. So what I'm doing is... And this is something else I have to, like, decide on. This is a design feature of a model railroad that you have to figure out is... how you're actually going to get power to your tracks. There's a lot of different ways. One way that I have seen done in the past, when I used to work on a museum and we hand-laid all of our track, is on every rail, no matter if that rail was an 8-foot-long piece or a 2-inch-long piece, we soldered a wire to the bottom of that rail. So we didn't have to worry about the little tiny finicky rail joiners at the end of the track actually providing the power for the track. We just had to worry about getting power to the rails. In previous layouts I've done, I've laid the track down and then just picked arbitrary spots and soldered wire to the sides of the rail and drilled holes through the side of the layout. I don't like that because you can see where you soldered it to. So what I've started doing, and I did this on my last N-scale layout, and I've already done this in one spot on this layout, is these little tiny rail joiners. I actually solder a wire to the bottom of the rail joiner. It means I don't have to worry about melting the track at all. Solder the wire to the rail joiner, connect the two pieces of track together, and we're golden. We've got power. Now, I could do that in just one spot and call it a day. I don't want to do it in just one spot. So what I have right now, and I can actually show you on camera, is even if this was in 4K, even if this camera was in 4K Ultra, Ultra like 12K, IMAX, whatever, which would be hilarious to actually have, you can't see where I've attached the rail joiners in this camera shot, or where I've attached the power supply. But it's right here, because I attached the rail joiners. In fact, only one piece of this track is glued down, and it is actually this piece of track here is actually permanently fixed. That's the only permanently fixed piece of track. The rest of it's all just sitting here. Let me take these cars off this track. These cars are not actually, or this track right here isn't actually attached yet. Isn't glued down, because I can't glue it down until I have that switch, this one right here, installed. I can't install this switch until I have this switch that goes right here installed. I don't have that switch because I haven't, or this switch because there's actually two that go right there. I need two right-handed switches to get that done. So, yeah, this track is just sitting here. I also need to solder a wire to this switch here because the frogs, which is, let me find one of these other switches and see if I can demonstrate this on camera. I don't know how good this camera's going to pick this up. But this part of the track right here, this part right here is called the frog. This is electrically isolated from the rest of the tracks, but you can attach a wire to that and attach a circuit board to this that will automatically change the polarity, basically if this is a positive rail or negative rail, when a train is coming along, and power that. And it's good to have these powered, because if you don't have them powered and you have a short axle locomotive and it rolls over there, it could stall out. Now, in my testing, I know 389, which is sitting right here in the yard right now, can run on this. And it can go through this switch and this switch just fine, even though they're not powered. So I'm not really worried about them. It's my other locomotive, I have one steam engine that I might run periodically once in a while, and that's the one I'm kind of worried about. So remember how I said earlier, if I ever want to work on my work table, I can just roll it out from underneath the... I can almost roll it out from under the layout. I gotta move my throttle from right there. It's probably not the best idea to put that controller right there. See, I still need to finish cleaning this table off. I literally just took everything that was too tall on this table last night off of it. Like, because I only left an inch gap between the bottom of the layout and here. And that's because I couldn't make the layout go any higher, or else I would start encroaching on my projector screen. In fact, when I put buildings and trees on here, I'm going to be blocking the lower part of my projector screen. So when I want to watch movies, like if I ever have friends over and they want to watch a movie, and they're like, oh, I need subtitles, I'll be like, well, there's trees in the way, so sucks to suck. What's nice is I can just, all my tables are on wheels, so I can just roll my workbench out of the middle of my living room. Even my coffee table, which you can't see because this camera is sitting on top of it. Even my coffee table is on wheels, so I can roll it around. Because again, this is my VR play space, so when I want to play VR, if I'm playing VR chat or whatever, this is where I do it. I just roll that table out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and go whoop, and plug it in right here. Again, advantage of putting the layout in my living room, I have wall outlets. I have wall outlets that I can actually access and get to. So I can plug that in right there. I think that's what we're going to work on tonight. We'll get a little bit of wiring done. I might have to move the camera so you can see better what I'm actually doing under the layout. Which I might ruin the magic. Wait a minute. You can already see one of the cameras on the screen. If you know where to look, on this camera here, you can see a camera right here, which is this camera right here. Cheddar, there's nothing over there for you. I'm going to take a momentary break. Because it's cheddar time. Nope, now you're getting bitey. No bites. No bite, you silly cat. I will yeet you into the sun. My child. My fat child. Alright. I don't know how well lighting is going to work for this because it's like down on the floor. That's one thing I don't have. I don't have a flashlight. So like I don't have good lighting under the layout. I have to venture to the garage. Oh, here's another thing about... Here's another thing about the layout. Oh, yeah. Here's another thing about the layout. When it was in my garage, I keep my motorcycle out there, right? And periodically, by periodically, I mean pretty much every time I park my bike in my garage, for the next like hour or two, my garage smells like gasoline. And why do I use the pink foam board? So I'm using pink foam insulation, specifically the 2-inch stuff, because you can carve it, right? So, let's say I want it. One, it's easy to drill and cut through. 2, I can carve it very easily. So if I wanted to, let's say, add a ditch or a river or something under the layout, I could easily do that. Here's one thing I'm going to do, and I'm not sure if I'm happy with it. I'm going to use these little bridge connectors. And these are what I'm going to use to basically wire each section of the layout together. So this is going to go here. Actually, it's going to go here like this. It's going to go... You guys can't see that. I can't even see the camera now because it's like, it's in one corner. So it's going to go right here. And then these wires have to attach to that. So I might actually have to desolder these wires and solder some longer wires on there. And then 2 wires from here are going to come through this hole, this hole, and then over here. And then I'll have another one probably down here for the other end of the yard. That's what I need. Ugh. My drill. Couple screws. But yeah, the pink foam insulation. It does actually provide some sound dampening when the trains are running across the across the tracks. But it's also lightweight. It's also styrofoam. And it also, again, like I said, it's carvable. So I can carve rivers, ditches, whatever I want into it. Which this layout, this railroad, the actual rail line, parallels a river. And so I might actually carve part of the river into the track, or into the benchwork, or not the benchwork, the foam work. There. So that will now allow me to run wires from here along here. And I already have holes drilled in these crossboards. I don't know if you can see it here on screen. That makes sense to use that stuff for many carving projects myself. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to take some of the cutoffs from this and put it in the corner and carve it and make like a hillside, because there is an area where this rail line goes through like a cut. Like, they didn't want to build a tunnel because the ground wasn't deep enough to worry about building a tunnel, but they couldn't go up and over or around this hill, so they just cut a groove through this hill. And so in one part of the layout, I'm going to have a cut modeled, at least half a cut. I want to put that there. Fortunately, those drops that I did for those feeders are too short. And I'm trying to look and see. I thought I had a spool of more wire. My cat just hit my tripod. Like, I know I've got some like thick wire. But it might be a little overkill. Get it? Overkill? Because I work at BattleBots and there's a robot there called Overkill. I will never not make the dumb jokes. If I ever stop making dumb jokes, just, you know I've been kidnapped. I'm moving some stuff around. You can kind of see me on the other cameras. That's what's nice about having multiple cameras. At least, if I'm not in the main camera, you can still see me doing something somewhere on one of the cameras. I have a length of wire. It's long enough. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out if I have enough wire to make it to the... There's a couple other parts I need to find. I will be back. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, I return. Whew. I went out to my garage because I was like, I know I got another spool of wire out there. And there was a particular electrical connector that I have. And I was like, I'll grab that while I'm out there. And I couldn't find it. I did find a second spool of wire that's got like some tape and shmoo on it. Oh yeah, this wire will work. Okay, so there's one person watching this gonna get like watching either right now or watching like after the fact, and they're gonna get motion sick from every time I pick this camera up and move it around. Twitch, I apologize. It is not my intention to make you motion sick from watching me move stuff. Alright, what I'm gonna do... Not easy. So here what I'm doing is I'm taking the rail joiners that I put in that have the wires soldered to them out. I'll take a soldering iron. probably shouldn't be doing this on top of the foam, but yeah. YOLO, I guess. somewhere I have a set of helping hands, but they have since gone missing. What I'm looking for next is I have a small block of wood. Here it is. It's over here. I'm going to take a small block of wood. Just a small one. I'm trying to position this that way, like, at least one camera can see it. That's going to take a few minutes to heat up. It is heating up, though. So I guess what I can do while I'm waiting for the soldering iron to heat up is I can talk a little bit more about some of the advantages of moving the layout into the living room. And while I'm doing this, I'm also in the back of my mind mulling over this corner. There might be a Saturday project. So because the layout is now in my living room, I can get it much closer to my main streaming computer, which is more powerful than the other computer that I was trying to stream this off of. And I can do live streams like this. And because I'm in air conditioning, I'm not drenched in sweat. Yeah, I'm a little sweaty because I'm just out in my garage, but like, if I get too hot, I can just take my shoes off and like I'm cooled down. And my AC's on. And the thing too is like when the lamp was in the garage, what I would do is I would turn on, I would put a fan in the doorway, in the door between my garage and my utility room, and close the door between my utility room and my dining room, but leave the door in my garage between my garage and my utility room open, and put a fan in there. So when the AC would kick in, it would blow cool air into the utility room, and then that fan would blow that cool air into the garage. It really didn't do much. Unless that fan was at full tilt and I was sitting right there in front of it, I still was just, I was in the heat of everything. And that was unpleasant. But now I'm in my living room and I'm just like, yeah. I can just vibe here. And then I can, like, I have my headphones in right now and I actually have the audio, the music that you guys are hearing in my headphones. But, like, if I'm working on the layout and I'm not streaming it, I can just have music over there. I can put a movie or TV on right here. I was working on this last night and I had the Synth Shop up on my big screen behind me. It's wild seeing me right there and then seeing me right there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take one of these pieces of track that I'm not using right now, and I'm going to attach this to that piece of track, like so. And then it's going to be really hard to show you, and I'm kind of waiting for the camera to just touch the soldering iron to that, melt the solder, and pull the wire off. And now I need my iFixit kit. I'm going to try to put it on the table over here. Is an ad played yet, or is an ad about to play? Like, where are we at ad-wise? Oh, we're almost an hour in. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Tim, there's a lot more good than there is bad. Like, the only bad thing that I can really think of is it is cutting a little bit into my VR space, and it definitely is going to encroach on my projector when I'm watching movies and stuff. But again, like, I don't watch movies with subtitles, so if the very bottom, like, 2 inches of my screen are cut off, I'm not really missing anything, considering when most movies, most action takes place, like, in the middle of the screen, so I'm not really going to miss much there. I do like the idea, at least, of having that separation of a layout, like a model train room and a regular room, and that's When I originally moved into this apartment, my spare bedroom was actually going to be the room where I was going to put the train layout. And then my mom got her idea of, oh, I'm going to turn the spare bedroom into an actual proper guest bedroom, so when she comes to visit. Yeah, Parker, you're here for the trains? Well, the good news is, Parker, there are trains. The bad news is they're not running yet. I think I did post a video in one of my other Discords the other day. I did actually have trains running the other day, but they're currently not running now. After moving everything into the living room, they're not running yet. Yeah, the separation of things would be nice, but it's really hard with that really big house. Yeah, like, it's nice to have that, because then I can sit there and be like, I'm done with the trains, and I can walk away from them and not see them anymore. The way this kind of fits into the corner of my living room, like, it doesn't really feel like it's invading my space. It's also nice and fresh to have them in my living room. Just because, like, I haven't really rearranged my living room in a couple days. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I've got some wire that I'm trying to, like, untwist. Somebody in their infinite wisdom thought, well, I should take this wire and I should twist these two wires together because I will never need to untwist them. And now I need to untwist them. And for record, that absolute brilliant person who decided to twist these two wires together after taking them off the spool was me. It was my idea. Now what I do is I take my needle nose pliers, which unfortunately I don't know where my other ones are. Well, actually I know exactly where they are, but I have one right here that has a nice little slight bend in them. And I go, and I put just I don't know how well this shows up on screen, but I put a little L bend in there, so that way when I solder the wire to this rail joint, and I'm going to use a block of wood as an example, because that's bigger. Let's say this is the rail joiner, and this is my wire. If I didn't put that little bend in, I would either put that wire like this, and it really wouldn't be a good connection, or I'd put the wire like this, but now the wire's going long ways like that. But if I put that little bend in, the wire comes off the rail joiner like this, but is soldered like this, which gives it more surface area for the solder to actually attach to, which gives it a much stronger, more secure bond. And that's why I put a tiny little L bend in my wires before soldering them to my rail joiners. Fastcast fucking with current cast again with twisted wire. You know, here's the thing, Tim. Present Kaz, cool dude. Future Kaz, fuck that guy. Past Kaz is a fucking asshole. Why did he fuck me up right now? Alright, this isn't going to translate well to stream because I'm trying to solder a wire and I have the camera in a bad spot. I apologize, but it's for the better. You don't want to see how bad I am at soldering. I'm actually pretty good at soldering. At least big stuff. My soldering iron, though, is old and showing its age. Go. You do have a 3-camera view. It's more. Yeah, there's one other person I've only seen a handful of people who live stream working on their model railroads. There's obviously 32-bit railroad on Twitch. He's like me though, and incredibly inconsistent. But I really like what he's doing with his layout in terms of user interaction. And then there's there's a Canadian railroad operations channel on YouTube who does it one step better, Tim. he actually has a camera mounted in a train car on his layout. And I'm 90% sure I figured out how he's doing everything, at least in terms of the electronics. I don't know the exact electronics, but I know the order of operations. But the camera is broadcasting the live stream, and then you can drive his train around his layout on in his house or whatever. And it's actually really cool. Yeah, and you can drive it. But he's on YouTube, and then there's another guy I was watching the other day. There's a British guy who I sometimes watch on Saturdays, and he's like, or it's either Saturdays or Sunday mornings. It's like early in the morning, because he's British, who he has multiple cameras on his layout, and he controls this entire layout from his computer, just like I can do if I wanted to. And he also can control the cameras, so he'll sit there and say, oh, we're going to run this train now. Here we go, chops. And he's like, he's sitting there, like, you see him just sitting, like, at one view like this. He's got one camera there, and he's like, and he got the monitor, like, right here, like, he's looking over the monitor, and he hits buttons, and you can follow the train as it goes around his layout, which is a pretty neat big layout. And then there's another guy I found, who's got an HO scale layout, that he does something similar where he's running his trains around, and he does, like, weekday operate, or he pops up in like for a few hours in the weekdays. I guess he's a retired guy, and his stuff's pretty cool. But like, he's just got 2 loops of Kato HO scale track and a few buildings, and like, circle burning is fun, but only for so long. For me, I want to dive into the process of actually building the layout and working on it and doing the operations and have you guys, the viewers, have some level of interaction with this and involvement. So, like, you guys come in here and hang out, you answer questions, you ask questions, I give feedback, you want to see something cool, you want to know how something works, I want to be able to show that off. So, if there are people who are like, hey, I've never built a model train before, I want to be able to do these live streams for them. So, it may be, as I continue going on with this, and I've talked about this before, you know, I may start adding a Saturday afternoon live stream, you know, actually like a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon. Yeah, Parker, that's something, I don't know if you watched my long video that I uploaded last night, but like, there's going to be like 4 industries on this layout. I'm going to have the scrap dealer over here, another one here, and then like 1 or 2 industries in this L section. Wire, here it is. Another little. I don't like that bend. Bend in the wire there. Oh, something I didn't talk about. So I went to I talked about this. I heard a knock on my door. Somebody slammed a door somewhere or something. Got a grain elevator complete. Sans weather, and got a cement plant currently under construction. So, Parker, one of the industries I want to have is a scrap dealer. And they get 2 things. They get 2 cars. They get a gondola, and then just whatever random car I decide to go there. And you spot the gondola and that random car. And then when I go and I flip the car tags over, I take that random car's car tag out, and I take that car off the track, and then I take a scrap load and put it in the gondola to simulate that car that you delivered to that industry being cut up for scrap and loaded into the gondola and sent out. Which is an actual industry on this rail line. It's actually, I think, the only industry left on the actual version of this rail line is a scrap dealer, to the point where like they don't even use the siding anymore. GLC just spots the cars. They don't take a gondola up there. They just take cars up there and leave them, because then they chop them up, and then they They chop them up and then haul it out in trucks. Oh, you guys can't see where I'm putting these wires in. Just pan the camera over here a little more. Ooh, just realized like this tripod, which is sitting on top of my coffee table, was just about to fall off the coffee table. Like it was right there at the edge. The tripod was edging. Now I've already got the cork in for the road bed, and I've even thrown down some paint. Unlike a lot of something I'm doing that I think is interesting, and this is actually something I learned from my buddy James years ago, is because this is an older, more disused rail line. The video I talked about earlier today, or I uploaded a video last night, goes a little more detail, but the history of this rail line and the alternate history that I'm retelling of this rail line is it's almost in its final days. The businesses along the rail line haven't quite given up rail service yet, and the railroad hasn't completely pulled out yet. And so there are still industries that are served by rail, but there's not enough for the railroad to go, all right, well, we're going to, dump hundreds of thousands of dollars into infrastructure and building up this rail line. It's just not worth it to us. And so the tracks are a little worn out, a little more disused. And to model that, instead of using HO scale road bed and making it look really nice and pristine, I'm using N scale road bed. And the N scale road bed means that the tracks look a little more run down, a little more used up. And if you're wondering what I was doing over there, I have a small toolbox right over there, and I need to get some wire snips out of it. And I can also start putting some of my tools in there. So using the N scale cork gives allows me to have the tracks a little more worn down looking, that the ties will actually stick out from the roadbed a little more because the ballast will sink in. The roadbed's not as tall as it would be if it was HO scale cork. And we got an ad starting? Oh, I got an ad, so we're going to take a little break here for this ad, and I'll come back. While that ad's going, I'm going to use the restroom, so the people who are subscribers who are still seeing this, yeah, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Alright, we should be back from the ad here shortly. So Parker, I'm not sure what you heard before the ad started, but I'll just restart what I was saying about my track and roadbed. So I'm using N-scale cork instead of HO-scale cork because the longer history of this rail line is there's just enough businesses and industry along it to warrant the railroad to keep serving them and to keep running trains through here, but not enough for the railroad to actually want to invest in maintaining the rail line to super high standards. And so the rails and the track are a little, more disused and a little worn out, and they are getting up there in age. So using the N-scale cork puts the track closer to the subroad bed. It also allows the ballast to kind of filter through the rails a little more, and the ties to stick out to make it look more washed out, worn out, more tired. It makes the track look more tired that way. And where'd my spool of solder go? Where's my spool of solder? And by doing that, by using the N-scale cork, it gives it that more worn out look. And so that's why I'm using N-scale cork. I'm also using N-scale cork because I have a metric fuck ton of it from when I was building an N-scale layout, and I stopped building the N-scale layout. Or I switched to HO scale. One of these days I will get a new soldering iron. Not today. I say that because my soldering iron's worn out and insulation in the handle is also worn out. So what periodically happens, especially when I have it on for a long time, is the handle gets really hot and I have to turn it off and let it sit for a little bit to let it cool down. What I'm doing right now is I am attempting to solder to the frog on this switch. I just can't pick this wire up. To basically prep this switch for when I do install the switch machine and the power supply for it. Shit, that frog just melted out of place. That was hot. I just touched it with my bare hands and that was hot. Yeah, a buddy of mine, I got an idea. A buddy of mine years ago was doing that. That's how he did his all of his industry tracks on his HO scale layout were all, his main line was all oh man, I'm like still smarting from that burn. His main line was all done with regular HO scale cork, but all of his industry tracks were done with N scale cork. And it actually gave it a really cool effect because you could just look at the tracks. You could just look and you could tell which track was the main and which track was the yard or an industry track without even any ballast, because you could see there was a few millimeter height difference between the mainline track and the industry track because of the cork. So what I've just done is other than burn my hand, drilled a hole through a block of wood so that way I can pull this wire through and hopefully salvage the solder joint and not completely bork this switch. Which the solder joint just isn't, it's not soldering. Yeah, I definitely burnt my finger though touching that frog because it had gotten really, really hot. So the problem is, like with solder, you gotta get the metal hot enough that the solder actually wants to like bond to it, but not hot enough that it melts the plastic ties, which is tricky. And like I said, I drilled the hole through the block of wood so I can pull the wire through and basically try and solder it from the top down instead of from the bottom up. There we go. Soldered wire. One more thing I gotta do though, I'm gonna put this wire back through the hole. Because the frog did pop out. The frog did pop out of the track. Now, for those unfamiliar, let's kind of explain this and without burning myself again. This little black part here is called the frog. That actually just moved. It's not supposed to move. It needs to be very accurately, precisely placed. It moved, unfortunately. So what I need to do is I know somewhere around here, I don't remember where I put them. I used to keep them in my wallet. When I used to be part of Model Railroad, a couple of different Model Railroad clubs, I used to carry around a HO scale, an N scale, and a 2-rail O scale track gauge. Like they lived in my wallet. And the only reason why I ever took them out was because I was flying cross country for the first time, and I was worried about security. Like, oh, they're gonna think they're knives. They're gonna take them on. Make me throw them away. So I took them out of my wallet, and I've never put them back in. And I had them out of my wallet. I had them somewhere on my table. Did I leave them on my desk? Not on my desk. Are they on this table? Like, I know I have them on here somewhere. I'm off camera looking for these right now. I don't think they made it to the garage. Are they on this table? No. Well, I'm not going to spend too long looking for them. They will come up. They'll turn up. Actually, you know, one more place I want to look. I didn't think they'd be in that drawer. Anything with these cards? No? I do not have a idea where they would be. What I'll do is I'll do some more digging later. I don't want to spend too much time on this looking for them on stream and not actually showing you guys progress on the layout. So I'm gonna just eyeball it, and the frog looks like it's fine. I don't think I can get that camera to focus because it's just that camera's in a bad spot. I should just stand right here for the rest of the stream. This is real entertaining, isn't it? What I'm about to do cannot be undone. Actually, it can be. It's a pain in the butt. You know what I should do? Oh, and I was talking about this earlier. I went to West Side Train. Not West. Yeah, it was West Side Trains. It's West Side Trains. Yes, I went to West Side Trains. I talked about this hobby shop once before, and this is not sponsored by them. They're not paying me to say anything one way or the other. I've talked about this hobby shop before, and I'm trying not to block the view, but I apologize. I needed to do one more thing first. What you're not seeing me doing is I put down some globs of tacky glue where I want to put down this piece of track, and now I'm using my finger to smear the tacky glue around, and because it's tacky glue, I just take it and rub it in my hand, and it balls up, dries up pretty quick. And I go over the trash can. And there. If I stand here, I might not block that camera so badly. That switch is now glued down. What I'm doing now is finding something heavy to put on top of it to hold it in place while that glue dries. That block of wood is not sufficiently heavy enough. What I'd love to have is like a can of soup. But I don't I don't eat soup, so I don't have a can of soup. I used to have a bunch of railroad spikes, and I would actually use those as the weights to hold my stuff down. So I've attached the feeder wire. I have glued the track in place. So all that's really left is for that track now to dry. I'm going to unplug the soldering iron. I'm unplugging the soldering iron. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to go put it somewhere out of the way. If I had a container I could put water in. If I did have a container I could put water in, I would. But the only containers I have are like my pots. And those are kind of big. And I don't want a lot of weight distributed over a large area. I want a lot of weight over a small area. So the block of wood and that drill is actually a sufficient amount of weight. I also only put down a little bit of tacky glue. So if I do have to go back in there and remove that for any reason, it's not a metric fuck ton of glue holding it in place. It's a small amount of glue. And then... I'm going to have a blister on my finger from that burn earlier. And then, what else? Oh, if I, something I was looking for over here. If I or when I go and actually put the ballast down, when I get to that step to do the ballasting, then the ballast will act as additional glue to hold everything down. Put it back under the layout now for a minute. One of the few disadvantages of the layout in my living room is I have to be very careful about cleaning up after myself. I'm very conscious of the fact that I have a cat that will just eat whatever I drop on the floor. And so it's like, if I like cut a piece of wire, or I'm doing some wire stripping or drilling, cutting, I have to make sure I sweep up afterwards. Promptly sweep up. Like right now, I'm stripping some wires, and it's like, all right, where those wire strippings go? All right, I've got them in my hand, and they're on the table. And they're secured. The wires are secured, Mr. President. I'm not gonna bother moving the camera onto the layout right now. I just want to get a couple wires connected real quick. Something I miss, and this is something that is important to model railroading just in general. I miss Radio Shack. Every time I work on a model train, every time I work on my model trains, or even my robots, I just look up at the sky and go, I miss you. I look up at the sky and just go, I miss you, Radio Shack. Engage the trains. I'm not even. I've connected 2 wires. Oh, that's another thing, Parker. So a couple weeks ago, I spent an afternoon moving one of my 2 computers across the house to my utility room. I put it in my utility room, got it all set up on a shelf in there, so that way I could run the wire that goes from the computer to the layout to run JMRI. The computer is in my utility room still. The layout is now in the living room. I don't think that cable will reach from my utility room to the layout. It might. It might. I haven't checked that yet. Through this hole, pull this hole, just stick it right there. There's my tape. So, I don't know if that's going to work. I do know that when I switch to the DCCX, like, that has built-in Wi-Fi, at least according to Parker, and some other stuff that I've read. That has built-in Wi-Fi. Yeah. And so I'll get that eventually, not anytime soon. I'll get that eventually, and oh, there. get that all set up on the Wi-Fi and be able to run trains that way. Whew. In the meantime, I'm still going to use the NCE system. So I actually have an order of operations in terms of what I want to get done on the layout, what, like, priority list for building layout, right? And low on that list is the DCC system. I have a DCC system that works. Why do I need to replace it? That's basically my mindset. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so, I'm in no real rush to get the new DCC system. Instead, what I want to do is I want to get the bench work done, which it's 90% done. I still have to figure out what I want to do with what I'm going to refer to as the door, the door end of the layout right now. Ooh, is that a steam locomotive? Yes, it is, Parker. Parker, it gets better. Let me finish talking about what I want to do layout-wise. I want to get the track work. I want to get the bench work done, and I want to get the track work done. I want to be able to run a train from one end of the layout to the other end of the layout. I don't care how it's done. I don't care if the switches are all motorized or not. But I want to be able to run a train from one end of the layout to the other end of the layout. Once I do that, then I'm going to focus on getting the switches all electrically operational. Either with blue points and little knobs, which I don't like that. I want to do... I like that because it's cheap, it's quick, and easy. I don't like that because it's not interactive for you guys. You guys can't interact with it that way. Whereas if I put them all with switch machines and switch machine controllers, well, now it becomes interactive. You guys can actually throw the switches for me, or I can do it and whatever. So that's like step 2, is get the switch machines in and running. Once I get the switch machines in and running, then I'll get a new DCC system. And then I'll start on scenery. Like, scenery is also a low priority item on this. So mine is old as well. Mine is 2010, I think, is when I got it. So it's old, but it still works. It's like, it still works. I don't need to replace it. Don't need to do anything with it. It is showing its age, but you know, it hasn't stopped working yet. It's primarily showing its age in the form of, like, the buttons are worn out on my power cab, and so oftentimes I'll press a button and nothing happens. That's why oftentimes I actually run with my other cab plugged in and don't use it, or I use the Y throttle. But, so Parker, you were asking, is that a steam engine? It is. It is, in fact, a steam engine. It is actually one of my favorite locomotives that I have. Oh, only old as in can only access functions 0 through 4. Yeah, no, mine is not that old. Mine has full functionality. But yes, that is a steam engine, Parker, sitting in the roundhouse. It specifically is number 4. It's Paramarquette 469, which 69 it's an 060. It is an 060 that Paramarquette did in fact have. They had a 060 numbered 469. Don't look it up, because you'll realize that the model I have and the actual one are vastly different in terms of their overall appearance and construction. You know, I miss Radio Shack. I also miss fries. But what's nice about that locomotive, Parker, that little 060 469, is I painted it myself. I painted it and weathered it myself. I painted it, weathered it, installed DCC and sound in it myself. It is a brass. I was about to say it's a brushless locomotive. It is a brass locomotive. Unrelated. Why have no model railroad manufacturers used brushless motors yet? I want to see a brushless locomotive drive on a locomotive. They're so much better. They're so much better. Brushless drives are so much better. You hear me? If anyone were to do it, a brushless drive, it would be Rapido. They would be like, you know what? Let's do a brushless drive because that's so much better. I don't know why I did like a mocking voice for that, but so I drilled holes through the layout, the cross members, for cable management, and now I'm just using a little bit of Gorilla Tape to secure the wires to the bottom of the pink foam board. So the wires don't get tangled up and yeeted. And it plugs in there. Plugs in there. And I need super sad thing. This connector here, that's fine. This one, tab broke. God damn it. I went to go adjust the camera and 2 of the 3 legs just finally fell off the table. Well, I happened to have my hands full at the same time. See, that's a weird thing about the working on layout here. Cheddar has no idea what's going on, so he's constantly running around like, "23 or 3. $127. $126. All right, folks, ladies and gentlemen. Cheddar, is that because he's a dumbass, that's why. There we go. We have train. We have train. I don't know how well the microphone's picking up the locomotive audio. One of the problems is like the little connector down here doesn't stay locked in, so like I have to hold it with one hand. Or you know what? I have technology. I also need I need a train emote. I thought I had one. I thought I had a train emote. Don't I? I don't. I got rid of them. You know what I'm gonna have to do? We can just get away with using a. No, I don't have them. I think I might have had to take them down. I will have to make some new ones. I'm gonna continue fiddling with the VTube thing, as like a side streaming thing when I'm playing games. But I'm also going to like I've been kind of experimenting with going back to using OBS. Right now I'm using Streamlabs OBS, which is fine. It's fine. It's fine. But I might go back to using regular OBS. So I've been kind of like toying around with that the last few weeks. It's part of the reason why I didn't stream the last 2 weeks. I was just burnt out and exhausted. After the Calypso weekend of face-offs, which I didn't compete, I just hung out, drank beer, and hung out with my friends, which was cool. It's awesome. It's fun. And then like I had family in town too, and then like just genuinely not feeling sociable the last couple weeks. Like even today, like I was at the taco shop getting tacos. And it was just like, do I really want to stream tonight? Why go back to old-fashioned OBS? So if you know kind of the shit history of Streamlabs, you'll know why I want to go back to OBS. Remember why I stopped running this? It's got a short somewhere in it. Got a hard short somewhere in the locomotive. So, and I think I know where it is. Yeah, I know where it is. So in order to make this locomotive work, and it's hard to see on camera, it has a flywheel on the back of the motor. And that flywheel periodically brushes into the brass body and shorts through the motor, since the motor is somehow hot electrically. And I forget the full process for opening this thing up. I know there's a couple of screws I gotta remove, but I don't remember which screws. Let's see if just prying it over by hand was enough. It doesn't have a backup light, and the headlight's burnt out. So I have to replace the headlight. I gotta replace the headlight, possibly install a tail light, fix that one short, but it runs! Well, now what I'm gonna do, it runs, but it's not one that I want to run right now. I don't know if you watched my video, Parker, but let me talk a little bit about the history, the revised history of this railroad. It is built based on a real location. It's based on a real location. It's Broadman Yard in Traverse City, Michigan. And the kind of light history of this rail line is that it was originally built by, this is actual history, it was originally built by Pere Marquette Railroad, and eventually when Pere Marquette was merged into Chesapeake and Ohio, it became C&O Rail Lines. I'm part of the C&O Railroad. And then after it became C&O, or after C&O kind of went away, it became part of the Tuscola and Saginaw Bay. Well, C&O didn't go away, but like C&O gave it up because they weren't using it anymore. They sold it to the Tuscola and Saginaw Bay Railroad, which continued to run it right up until they became Great Lakes Central. Now, Pere Marquette in Traverse City, Michigan did in fact, in this yard, have a turntable. I have found historical documents that, at least one historical document that references the that shows that they did in fact have a turntable in this yard. And so the alternate history for this rail line, the way I have envisioned it, is when Pere Marquette built the turntable, when C&O took over, they said, well, we don't need the turntable and the roundhouse anymore, we're going to demolish it. Which is what they did. They actually did. My alternate history take is, as they were getting ready to demolish it, the Traverse City Historical Society said, hey, we want this to be a museum to the rich railroading history of Traverse City, because Traverse City used to have quite a lot of railroads in it. If you actually look at some of the historical maps, there's a lot going on up there. And they even had like docks, and I think there was even a ferry to ferry stuff across the Great Lakes. Or at least ore docks or something up that way. Anywho. So the Historical Society bought the turntable and the roundhouse in Broadman Lake, or Broadman Yard, from C&O Railroad. And preserved it to build a railroad museum. Cheddar, don't eat on that. Try not to touch my wires. I will yeet you into the sun, my small dumb child. I yell at my cat all the time. Well, eventually, the rail line saw just enough traffic, or a decline in traffic on the line, but not enough to not still have a crew and trains in the yard and doing work up there. So, Skull and Saginaw Bay kept one locomotive, even when they became Great Lakes Central. They kept one locomotive painted up as Tisby, in the Tisby colors, which happened to be 389, which was aptly named the City of Traverse City. It's not something you can see, but it actually does say City of Traverse City under there. They kept that locomotive there just as a living museum piece, because there was just enough traffic on the branch line to warrant having a crew based out of Traverse City, running the couple industries down here. So that's my alternate take. That's why there's still the roundhouse. It's a museum. And why there's one locomotive and this rail yard still here is there's just enough busyness on the rest of this railroad to warrant and justify having a crew based out of this city. While I was telling the story, I did also glue down this piece of track. So I now have 3 pieces of track. I officially have 3 pieces of track. 3 pieces of track. Did my main camera die? Oh no, I was looking at the wrong thing. 3 pieces of track that are now glued down on the layout. Like, Cheddar's getting into the wires. He's starting to, like, sniff them, and he knows better. Come here, Cheddar. Come here. You're not in trouble. I'm trying to pet you. He knows when I'm mad at him. It's like, oh, I got into the wires. He's talking about me. Oh, he's gonna yell at me. And then later I'm gonna, like, bend down and he's gonna be like, pet me. Pet me now. So, well, a couple more things I want to do before I wrap up. Where's my tape? I want to secure this over here. Over yonder. There's like a couple wires that are hanging down still that I want to make sure are secured so they don't potentially snag anything. I intentionally left a couple of them long for future-proofing myself. I'm like, why am I keep forgetting I, like, switched off of, I need to get back over here and switch back to live view. I'm, like, watching my stream on a separate thing. Here we go. No bite. He's trying to bite me. Like, it's a playful biting. No. Stop biting. Alright, get back on the floor. Go chew on something. I got you. Where's your tube? Where's your tube? Your tube. He found a roll of toilet paper, like an empty toilet paper tube, and like that's just the. He chases that thing around. Yeah, how are we on time? I think we're at an hour and a half. It was a little short. Oh, we're almost at 2 hours. I think I'm gonna call it a night here. We didn't get a whole lot done, but like we got a lot done in terms of, you know, establishing that I'm working on a lab again and actually doing it, like actually showing off what progress has been made. I think the next steps are going to be, I want to 3D print another one of these holders for the, and I actually don't know if I'm going to 3D print another one of these holders for the cabs. This one might not actually stay here. I might put it on the shelf under the layout out of the way, and then this other one will hang right there. Obviously, I have to move them whenever I put my table there because the table hits it. Let me get myself back into the shot. I ran a train. We did. We ran a locomotive. We ran 2 locomotives. In fact, let's run it again. Another unintended advantage of having the layout in the living room is I don't have nearly as much dust in my living room as I do in my garage. My garage gets really dusty. And another thing too, like as I was saying earlier, like, my garage gets really hot. I'm actually worried about the heat in the garage affecting electronics and affecting like scenery. Like, oh, I'm gonna build a building, and put it on the layout, and then it's so hot in the garage that the plastic that it's made out of like warps. Like, I'm legit worried about that. Like, there are parts of this layout that were actually so hot just sitting in the garage. It's not even sitting in the sun. The sunlight doesn't even hit anything in there. But it was all so hot that like picking up the track was hot. The track was hot. And like, I'm not even worried. Like, thermal expansion would definitely happen, but it's like it burned my hands to pick up a piece of track. Well, it didn't actually burn, but you get my point. Yeah, I think I made some pretty good progress tonight. There's definitely a lot more work to do. It's something that we still need to work on. And this will be probably a Saturday project for the layout. Is this corner over here. And the reason why I say that corner is I still don't know what I want to do with that piece. I had to move it over here and rotate it. And as I said at the beginning of the stream, I don't know if I want to keep it L-shaped like this, or if I want to make it straight and go this way, or if I want to leave this and extend the layout that way and make this an industrial plant, and which would give me, more cars to switch out over there. I also still need to do the rest of the legs. This leg is only held in by a C-clamp. I need to get one more piece of 2x4 to do one more leg, because this piece needs 5 legs, not 4, like everything else. And I need to drill the holes in this back corner behind me, you can't see it, to put the alignment bolts in that actually connect these sections all together. Right now, the only thing holding the middle section and the end section in place are some C-clamps, which could probably stay there, but they're not going to keep things aligned forever. And I might need those C-clamps elsewhere. So I think this Saturday I might make a run to the hobby shop and pick up a couple of right-handed switches, so that way hopefully on Saturday afternoon, we can finish the rail yard. I would love to get the yard fully functional track-wise this weekend. And then I can worry about this other section of the layout, and maybe get the track in place for the downtown section, and then next week figure out this mess. I don't really like doing cutting with my saw too late in the evening, so that's why I didn't really work on this at all, because I know I have to cut a lot of wood. It's easier to just do some track work. I also want to try and stream either Saturday or Sunday working on the layout, with the idea that people who live on the East Coast can actually get in and get involved and hang out and everything. Because I know I live on the West Coast. I don't start until almost 9 o'clock for people on the East Coast. So, but yeah, that's gonna do it. That's gonna wrap it up for tonight. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, check the link in the description below. I'll have a link to my Twitch channel and a link to my Discord, where you can come in and hang out with me and eventually, potentially, even run these trains in some capacity. That is way down the line of what I want to do in terms of building this layout, but it is something that is on the docket. What else? Oh, I think that's gonna be it. If you liked this stream and you're following along on, if you're watching this stream, you know, come give me or watching this on YouTube, you know, click on that link, come follow my Twitch channel. Follow, like, subscribe, all that good jazz. I will catch you guys all later. I do have to walk over to the other side of the room, though, and click a button to end the stream. So, I will catch you guys all next time. I'm out of here.